Canada is heating up again, politically, economically, and emotionally. Something's happening out west, something that's been building for months, maybe even years. And this week, it finally boiled over. But just when the storm seemed ready to explode, Prime Minister Mark Carney stepped in, and what he said has the entire country talking. People are calling it a defining moment. Others say it was pure political theater. But no matter which side you're on, one thing is clear: Carney's words were aimed directly at the heart of a movement that's been quietly spreading across the prairies, the so-called Western Rebellion. Now, he didn't say those exact words. He didn't have to. The tone said it all. Calm, measured, confident, but underneath it all, there was an edge. Like a man who's been pushed too far, who's finally decided to push back. Over the past few weeks, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and even parts of British Columbia have been buzzing with talk of independence, of going it alone, of taking back control of their resources and their future. And whether it's frustration over Ottawa's carbon policies, the CPP standoff, or decades of feeling ignored by the East, that anger is real. So when Carney walked out in front of the cameras, he wasn't just addressing reporters. He was speaking directly to every frustrated farmer, every oil worker, every small business owner who feels like Ottawa just doesn't get it. And he didn't waste time sugarcoating anything. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Canada's strength doesn't come from its divisions, but from its unity. That the future isn't built by walking away when things get hard, but by fixing what's broken together. And then, in a tone that made even the most hardened political analysts sit up, he said that anyone betting on the country falling apart might want to rethink their odds. It was subtle, but powerful. And within minutes, it sent shockwaves through the political world. Because here's the thing, the timing couldn't have been more critical. Over the last month, several Western premiers have made increasingly bold statements about Ottawa's overreach. Alberta's premier has hinted at options on the table. Saskatchewan's government has pushed forward new autonomy legislation. And there's even been talk, quiet, but persistent, of provinces coordinating policy to reduce federal influence. In other words, the ground is shifting. And Carney knows it. So this wasn't just another speech. This was a message. Not just to premiers, but to the people watching from their kitchen tables, to those who've lost trust in Ottawa, who feel like the system isn't working for them anymore. And here's where it gets interesting. While Carney's message was calm on the surface, it was packed with signals. You could almost hear the warning between the lines, that Ottawa won't sit quietly if provinces start pushing constitutional boundaries. That Canada's unity isn't negotiable. But what's fascinating is how divided the reaction has been. In the West, social media lit up almost immediately. Some praised Carney's composure, saying he was finally showing leadership, the kind of steady hand Canada needs in chaotic times. Others called it tone deaf, accusing him of lecturing instead of listening. "We don't want speeches," one commenter wrote. "We want respect." Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the mood was very different. Insiders say Carney's team believes this was the moment he reasserted control, the moment he made clear that the federal government is still in charge. And maybe, just maybe, reminded everyone that despite the noise, Canada isn't about to break apart anytime soon. But let's not kid ourselves, this tension isn't going away, because underneath the political statements and press conferences, there's a growing sense of alienation that no one speech can fix. Alberta feels like its energy wealth has been drained to fund the rest of the country. Saskatchewan says its industries are shackled by federal red tape. And BC, caught in the middle, is struggling to balance environmental policy with economic reality. And while Carney's words may have calmed things, for now, they also reignited a national conversation that's been simmering for decades: what does it really mean to be part of Canada? The last time Western alienation reached this level, we saw new political movements rise, national unity votes, even the threat of referendums. And some say we're on that same road again. So, was Carney's statement a masterstroke of leadership, or the spark that could light another political fire? That's the question echoing across the country right now. What's remarkable is how deliberate Carney seems to be in his approach. He didn't call out any province by name. He didn't attack. Instead, he positioned himself as the calm center in a growing storm, someone willing to listen, but unwilling to yield. A kind of steady father figure to a country that's feeling divided and uncertain. But make no mistake, this is a high-stakes balancing act. If he pushes too hard, he risks inflaming the very tensions he's trying to cool. If he stays too soft, he looks weak. And every premier watching knows it. Behind the scenes, sources say meetings between Ottawa and provincial leaders have become increasingly tense. There are reports of private calls, some described as heated, where premiers demanded more autonomy over resource management and taxation. The federal government, meanwhile, insists national programs and benefits depend on collective participation. And that's the heart of it, this tug-of-war over who really controls Canada's future. But Carney seems to be betting on something bigger than politics. He's betting on the idea that most Canadians, even frustrated ones, don't actually want to see the country split apart. That deep down, people still believe in the idea of Canada, even if they're angry at the way it's being run. And that's why his speech matters. It wasn't just about defending Ottawa's policies. It was about defending the very notion of a united Canada. You could hear it in the way he talked about shared history, how the prairies, the Maritimes, Quebec, and the North all contribute to something greater than the sum of their parts. He talked about a Canada that works for everyone, though even his critics admit, that's easier said than done. Still, it struck a chord. Still, there's something undeniably strategic about how he's handling it. Rather than confront anger with anger, he's using calm, a deliberate contrast to the fiery rhetoric coming from some provincial leaders. And maybe that's the point. He's framing himself as the adult in the room. The steady hand. The one person trying to hold the country together while everyone else plays politics. And that image, that subtle but powerful image, could be the key to how history remembers this moment. Because years from now, when people look back, they might not remember every word he said. But they'll remember the feeling, that moment when things felt like they could fall apart, and one man stood up and said, "Not on my watch." Whether it works or not, that's still the big unknown. But tonight, one thing's certain, Carney's defense of Canada has reignited the national debate. The country's watching, the West is waiting, and the next move could decide whether Canada's story stays united, or splits into something entirely new.